Thank you for tuning in to the best parenting show on the internet, Post Daily Dose.
It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post. It's the Post. The Post Daily Dose. It's the Post. It's the Post.
Hey Facebook, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Bryan+Post. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day to all you beautiful moms and moms-to-be and single ladies and beautiful gentlemen and pretty men and all you beautiful people. Big Papa loves you and happy Valentine's Day to you. Happy Love Day, baby. So this is going to be a quick one. Don't want to take you away from your Valentine's Day evenings too long. And just, hey Heidi, hey Mama, hello Debbie. Just wanted to, so I was thinking, what's a good topic for Valentine's Day on the Post Daily Dose? And what better topic than touch? Touch is your biggest sensory pathway in your whole body. So your skin has as many receptors as your brain does. So when someone is touching your skin, it is as if they are massaging your brain. Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Kirsten. It is as if they are massaging your brain. So the impact of touch is so big, and it is oftentimes so undervalued. We don't realize that when, hey, Peggy, we don't realize a couple of things. Number one, when we touch, we stimulate oxytocin in the brain. Oxytocin being your brain's anti-stress hormone. But here's what happens. When we become stressed, and some of you deal with this with your children who don't like to be touched, there's a reason for that. And in fact, I just told you the reason. The reason children don't like to be touched is because it is overwhelming, because touch is so stimulating to the sensory system, to your stress reaction system. So this is what happens when you're stressed. One of the reasons why we have diminished touch in relationship is because when we get stressed, we constrict into survival. When we're constricted into survival, we don't like to touch. Hey, Jill, thank you very much for the Valentine's Day wish. And you as well, Jennifer. Thank you so much. We constrict into survival, and when we constrict into survival, one of the sensory pathways that we tend to shut down is the pathway of touch. And so the other pathway that we oftentimes shut down when we're stressed and when we move into a conditioned state of stress is eye contact. And then after that, we go into isolation. We get away from sound. We don't want to hear sound. Just think about this from the context of the last time you were stressed. The last time your stress really elevated. One of the very first things you do is you stop making eye contact, because eye contact is one of the most direct ways to stimulate the frontal lobe, your orbital frontal cortex, which is your executive control center for all your social and emotional relationships. And the other one is smell. So you start to isolate a little bit more. You either steer away from smells that make you feel uncomfortable, or you move towards smells that make you feel good. And so smell goes through one sensory pathway to stimulate the amygdala. The other one is touch. When we become stressed, we constrict into survival, and we don't like to be touched because it stresses us even more. It pushes our window of tolerance. So that's a lot of times what's going on with your children in the home is they don't like to be touched. Some children, because they have early environments of trauma and neglect, so they will move away from touch because touch is not pleasant. See, everyone who gets touched, it's not always pleasant. Touch can be a very stressful thing, and a lot of parents experience this a lot of times with autistic children because their sensory system is so sensitive. So to touch them makes them kind of constrict back. And we a lot of times take that personally, and we think that, maybe it's just us and they just don't like us, or, if it's a parent, when our child is just being resistant to us. But it's not that at all. It's that touch really overwhelms the sensory system. And it's like pouring water over your head. I want to give you that analogy so you'll have an idea. for those of you who don't understand that with your children, but when you have a child who's really sensitive to touch, it's like pouring a cold glass of water over somebody's head. It's unexpected. It's overwhelming. The brain can't regulate all the stimulation that's happening in that one time, and it could be just that little touch. And so it just creates more stress. Thank you so much, Naomi. So I believe it's so important for us to realize that when our children become stressed, some children, they constrict and don't want to be touched the same way we as adults do it. But the flip side of that is we need touch. Touch is a very important pathway for helping us to regulate. In fact, it is one of the most important. It's more important than any of the other pathways that we ultimately experience in relationship is touch. So when you have a child who, and this dynamic happens a lot in families. You have a child who doesn't like to be touched, so you stop touching them. The problem with that is that it's not that they don't like to be touched. It's not that touch is not soothing to them. It's that touch, they need touch in a certain way. And so it's a lot of times it's figuring out what that touch is and what part of their body feels that touch feels the best. It could be their head. They could like pressure on the head. They could like their head to be scratched. It could be their back. They could like a really hard back scratch, or they could just like a lot of firm pressure on their back, or they could like a gentle sweeping on their back. It's all a matter of learning what the preferences are, and sometimes you just have to ask. So that's really important, is knowing what kind of touch that your child likes, and for us as adults, communicating to our partners, to our spouses, to our significant relationships, what kind of touch is it that makes you feel good? What kind of touch is it that you like that makes you feel regulated? And what kind of touch stresses you out? You know, you might not like to have your butt patted. That might stress you. You might prefer to have a hard squeeze. You might prefer to just have a back scratching. You know what you prefer, so communicate that to whoever it is that's going to be providing you the touch. The other thing is that's really important is that when you're in an environment of stress, especially with your child, because we constrict as adults and because we don't give affection when we're stressed, what eventually happens is the child who's got the most challenges, who's the most sensitive, and who's the most fearful in the home ends up getting less affection than anyone else in the home. The child who needs it the most ends up getting it the least. And if you find yourself in a stressful situation, and let's say you're a single parent, where do you get your touch from? Well, ask coworkers to give you a hug. Touch yourself. Ask friends, family members to give you a hug. Doesn't have to be all the time, but occasionally it just feels good to have a hug, or just to have someone sit beside you and hold your hand. And then hopefully you get to the point with your child where you can share affections with one another. So it's really important. So one of the things that you have to understand about eliciting oxytocin is that a 20-second hug has been determined to release more oxytocin than even orgasm. Orgasm is the second biggest way to release oxytocin in the brain, to flood the brain. A 20-second hug releases more oxytocin than even that. A 20-second hug is a long hug. Can you work up to giving 20-second hugs? See, that's a really important thing. But see, the other thing that sometimes happens is that children hug their parents too much. You find your child always hanging on you. You find your child always wanting to hug you. And then, this is the important piece, what happens is you start pulling back. So you start giving a half a hug, and you start bristling, and you start not wanting to hug, and you allow them to come and give you hugs, but you're not giving them hugs back. And then what happens is they end up wanting more. And so then it starts to create a negative feedback loop. You've got to challenge yourself to calm yourself down, to relax enough to give in. And it's almost like the child who chatters. The child who chatters incessantly, nonstop, because the parent's not really listening. You've got to calm yourself down. So if you've got any any personal issues, if you've got any abuse issues or any challenges yourself, any emotional challenges yourself around touch, you got to work that out. You got to work that out. You got to be mindful of that. But ultimately, you have to be able, because here's what happens. When you have a child who's really needy and they're always asking for touch and always looking for touch, and you're pulling away and you're giving, but you're pulling away, then the vibration you're giving is one of abandonment. The vibration you're giving is one of insecurity. The vibration you're giving is one of anxiety. It's one of an absence. So they're hugging you, but they're not getting the feedback from you that they're looking for to soothe their system. That's why they keep doing it. And that's why you keep pulling back. They're asking for more, you're giving less. You gotta grasp that. Even if you say, look, honey, let daddy give you 5 minutes. Let daddy give you 5 minutes of hugging, or 1 minute of hugging, or 30 seconds of hugging. And then daddy doesn't want to do hugs anymore because daddy just doesn't feel comfortable with hugs right now. It's something I'm working on. It's not you. I love you very much, but I'm just trying to work on getting better at hugs. And I appreciate that you give me so many hugs. But let's just do 30 seconds at a time. And for that 30 seconds, you notice I said 5 minutes, because I'm like, yeah, 5 minutes would be fantastic to be able to hold on to your child and hug them and nurture them and love on them, but you just might not be able to do that. 30 seconds. In that 30 seconds, you breathe, you calm your system down, and you really connect and really hug your child. Really hug your child. Really hug them, hold them, feel it. Feel it in your body, feel it in their body, feel the relaxation. Feel how good it feels if you can just get through the stress and the fear. The other thing is, and this is why I came up with my 10-20-10 parenting intervention. It is give the most difficult child in the home 10 minutes of quality time and affection in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, and 10 minutes in the evening. Do that for 2 weeks. Do that for 2 weeks, and you are guaranteed a 50% reduction in their most severe behavior. 10-20-10. 10 minutes of time and affection. Go in their bedrooms in the morning before they ever even get out of bed and rub their back, rub their hair, do whatever feels. Take a brush and rub it over their back. Take a brush and rub it over their hair, down their legs, whatever feels good to them. Whatever releases their oxytocin. Do that for 10 minutes. 20 minutes in the afternoon. And it could just be sitting together. It could be playing a game. It doesn't always have to be touching. But it's 20 minutes of time and affection, and then 10 minutes in the evening. That quadruples. So this was 20 years ago when research came out that said on average, parents and children spend 10 minutes of quality time and attention in a single day. Well, it's probably even gotten less than that because of social media. So all of a sudden you're giving a child 10, 20, 10, 40 minutes of quality time and affection. It impacts their system because it turns on so much oxytocin, which helps them to relax. When they relax, they're not stressed anymore. When they're not stressed anymore, they're not regressed. When they're not regressed, they're not having behavior challenges. You see how it all plays out? It all plays out. So 10-20-10 can be very powerful. But taking the time for the child who is the most challenging, getting yourself in a space so you can love on them, so you can hug them, so you can get more hugs during the day. I'm always talking about prevention and talking a lot about prevention in my Inside the Parenting Matrix group. And a lot of that is giving hugs. Giving hugs. Same for teachers. Get a hug. At least give them a handshake. At least rub their back. I remember as last year was coming out, those YouTube videos of those teachers doing dap with the student. Every student first thing in the morning. You know what was really cool about all of that? It wasn't that the teachers were being cool and hip and giving dap and all that stuff. What was really cool about it is that they were touching. That's what was really cool about it. And that touching makes the teacher less threatening, therefore more soothing and more regulating. And then the students feel much more relaxed. They feel much more relaxed because of oxytocin. So that's it, guys. Touch. It's Valentine's Day. Get some touch. Give yourself some touch. Feel good. Turn on oxytocin. Work on that. Work on that 20-second hug and work on getting up, building up to that 30 seconds. If you've got challenges with that, just work on it. Just keep working on it. Just remember, it's important. It's one of the biggest sensory pathways in your body. Remember, in any given situation, we always have two choices. You can continue to operate from the conditioning of the matrix, and you operate from fear and stress and constriction, and you don't touch at all. And you have decades and generations of conditioning that says touch is inappropriate or touch is not that important. Or you can stop, you can take 3 to 10 deep breaths, you can slow down, and you can give a big old hug. You can touch your child. You can get some touch for yourself. You can have some oxytocin. And if any of you don't have someone to give you a hug, just come to Oklahoma. My mom gives the best hugs ever. She's got hugs in abundance. So we could just line her up, line everyone up, and you just come and get hugs. We call her Mimi. You can come get a Mimi hug. It's all good. It's Valentine's Day, right? It's Valentine's Day every day if you need a Mimi hug. All right. Big Papa loves you. God bless you. I hope you have a fantastic evening this evening. I hope when you lay your head down at night, I hope you feel restored. I hope the cells of your body release all the stress of the generations, the decades of trauma and pain. And I hope it just releases, and you feel restored in the morning when you wake up. You feel refreshed, re-energized, reinvigorated, and you're ready to be a fantastic parent. Continue being the fantastic parent that you are, because you are a parenting superstar, baby. Happy Valentine's Day. Big Papa loves you. We'll see you tomorrow.